and related investment thresholds under the Income Tax Act, Cap 340, the Value Added Tax Act, Cap 349, Excise Duty Act 2014, and Stamp Duty Act of 2014, provide for exclusion of income from transportation of cargo embarking outside Uganda, to clarify the apportionment of income qualifying for exemption under the 10-year tax holiday, to provide for the definition of the business asset for purposes of Section 118B, and to provide for International Development Law Organization as a listed institution, and to provide for other related matters. Madam Speaker, we formally tabled this bill before the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development. I understand they have scrutinized the bill and they are ready to report back to the House.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Vuru.
Madam Speaker, there has been a bit of consultations here and there on this report, and as of yesterday we thought we were ready, but there has been some changes which have been suggested by members, and therefore that the report on income tax is not ready. But Right Honourable, I'm ready with the report on excise duty and the report on the tax procedure. So I'm moving that we stand over this, and that when we are ready with that report, we'll start from where we are stopping now, where the Minister has moved the motion.
Honorable members, this House has passed bills before the report of the committee. The inefficiency of a committee should not be brought to the House. Honorable Mwanga, can you present your minority report?
Chair, even the majority report, I have a copy of the majority report fully signed.
You present your minority report. We have the bill here, and we shall work on the amendments.
But also, Madam Speaker, on the order paper, we are supposed to start with the URA bill. Okay, if
you're supposed to start, the preserve of the order paper is on you, the Chairman of Finance. I am asking, is it on you, the Chairman of Finance, or on the Speaker?
If it's your directive, Madam Speaker, then we can proceed with the draft as it is. You don't have a report.
Yes, Honorable Sewungu.
I'm seeing a new scenario in this House where a honorable member, chair of a committee, is trying to usurp your powers. Secondly, if a report was signed by members and is on the other paper, because it cannot appear on the other paper without having been signed by members. Now, what is the chairman trying to insinuate on this floor of
Honorable
Parliament?
members, nobody can ever usurp my powers. The 415 votes I got are not 10 votes.
That's why I'm supporting you so much on that matter. So, where that member, a chair, is trying to bring other ideas or other adjustments.
This is my House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So, let us
Honorable
proceed as you have directed.
Mwanga, can you continue? Honorable Mwanga, you continue.
Chair, I have a minority report, but
You read it.
I have a minority report, but Chair, with me here is also a copy of a fully signed majority report. Now, if the Chair is cowardizing, permit me to read the majority report, then I follow
No.
and I read the minority report. I have a copy here that is fully signed by me, unless the Chair and the committee are tinkering this last moment with the majority report. But yesterday it was signed and you have a copy.
Okay, Madam Speaker.
There is a procedural matter from Honorable Eki.
Madam Speaker, our rules are clear. If a committee is not ready within the prescribed time to present the report, the House can continue with the bill as it is and make a final decision. Madam Speaker, do we want to operate and deviate from the procedure that is within the rule?
Honorable Avuru. Honorable Avuru.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Will the chairperson follow procedure and listen? Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, you need to help out at this very stage. The chairperson needs to come clean as to what stage the majority report is. The minority report that Honorable Mwanga has is a derivation from the majority report. A minority report derives from the position of the majority. And for the minority to present, the majority has to come clean as to the existence or the non-existence of the majority. Where there's no majority, we cannot have a minority.
Honorable Namuga, when your leader of opposition is speaking, you don't stand up. What's wrong with it? It is free sitting.
First sit.
Avuru, can you sit?
Now that we have a problem, Honourable Speaker,
give me the report.
let leadership of the committee come clean at what stage, because they are confusing the House. Let them come clean at what stage we are.
Honorable members, I don't see why you're causing all this chaos.
Chair.
I am saying first give me the report before you go to the microphone. I've not given you. You people don't. I don't wish you to see the other part of Anita. Read the report. It can be amended in the House. Honorable members, yesterday, I just want to remind you one thing. The leadership of the committees, I have powers to sack any of you for not doing the correct things. You're not going to continue disorganizing us in this House. Go ahead.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. The chair of the committee says the report is not ready. He is now standing to read the report. Madam Speaker, I want to request, without paralyzing the work of Parliament, that as a leader of this institution, maybe administratively you deal with that particular chairman. We can go ahead with the business. Because there is no way you can tell Parliament in 1 second that the report is not ready, and in another second you are standing to read the report. I want to request you, Madam Speaker, to promise that you will deal with that matter administratively, because, I mean, really.
We are going to deal with, I am going to deal with that issue. Leave it to me. I am going to deal with a member who attacked a honorable member in the steps, and I'm going to handle the issue of finance. Honorable Vuru, give us your report.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to report on the Committee of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2022. Right Honourable Speaker, with your indulgence, I want to skip the introduction and the object of the bill, methodology, because the minister has already taken us through, and go straight to 4.0, observation of the committee. The committee identified various cross-cutting issues and made the following observations regarding the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2022. Cross-cutting issues: 4.1, non-clearance of motor vehicles 9 years or older. The committee observed that Uganda Revenue Authority issued a notice to the public in April 2022 that all motor vehicles of 9 years and older from the date of manufacture will be compelled to have their final clearances done at the port of entry, that is Mombasa or Dar es Salaam, effective 1st July 2022. The committee further observed that the 3,000-strong business community under this sector usually does not have ready cash to execute transactions without borrowing, whereby most businesses operate using borrowed money. In this regard, banks and other credit facilitators have to verify goods, vehicles before extending the facility. In addition, the resale use of most of the imported vehicles is always based on current number plates. The committee noted that this will greatly affect the market since these vehicles will be acquiring number plates and it takes some time to reach the customer from the bonded warehouse. This has been possible through the warehousing regime, which allows vehicle importers to warehouse them up to 270 days. Recommendation: A, the proposal by Uganda Revenue Authority that all motor vehicles aged 9 years and older from the date of their manufacture are to be compelled to their final clearance date at the port of entry should be deferred to the financial year 2023-2024, when the economy is fully open and able to effectively trade. B, the exercise be taken in a phased approach, with the first year targeting vehicles 15 years and older. 4.2, widening the tax base. The committee observed that there is urgent need to widen the tax base through measures that stimulate growth in the economy. The strategic areas are as follows: enactment of the National Local Content Bill. 2, enactment of a Real Estate Agency Bill. You can read the details, honorable members. 3, reduction in illicit trade. 4, the committee noted that customers always shift to cheap smuggled products and informal market products. 5, I think this is more or less repetitive. Let me go to the recommendations. The committee recommends that government undertakes effective efforts to expand the tax base. A, fast-tracking the implementation of the objectives of the domestic revenue mobilization strategy. B, enactment of the Local Content Bill and the Real Estate Agency Bill 2022. Specific observations. Clause 4.3, 2B, amending Section 2BB of the Income Tax Act, definition of the exempt organization. The committee observed that the clause amends the definition of an exempt organization in Section 2BB of the Principal Act to include a research institution whose object is not for profit. The committee further observed that the above definition of exempt organization is ambiguous in that it does not go far enough to clarify whether not-for-profit oriented companies supporting business community in business development are exempted. The business management organizations that could benefit from a clear definition of a research institution to include associations such as Uganda Manufacturers Association and the Uganda Small Scale Industries Association, UZEA. The committee further noted that including not-for-profit oriented companies under research institutions would be in line with the NDP3 program of private sector development, as more members of the private sector will be organized and supported. Recommendation. The committee recommends that Clause 2B be amended to include not-for-profit oriented companies in the definition of a research organization. 4.4, taxation of rental income. The committee observed that the following is needed to amend Section 522 and the third schedule to the Income Tax Act to simplify collections of rental tax. The committee further noted that given that most of our the individual landlords have challenges of record keeping and the sector is generally informal, there is need to tax incomes and not expenses in regard to their rental income. The committee further noted that due to the high taxation on rental income, compliance remains low since the current taxes. Compliance remains low. The committee took cognizance of the agreement between the government of Uganda and Ripo NAMI Incorporation to assist in the collection of rental tax through digital solutions. The committee further noted that any increase in rental tax has a bottom line advantage to Ripo NAMI Inc., which shall benefit from higher revenues. The committee noted that the need to monitor and evaluate the performance of Ripo NAMI contract in future to ascertain if it has a positive impact through expanding the tax base in rental tax head. Recommendation. The committee recommends that all individuals taxed on gross income, and they should be in bands as indicated here. Members, I believe you can go through. We have indicated that those not exceeding 2,820,000 there should be a nil tax, and then those between 2,820,000 to 12 million, a tax of 7.5 on gross should be applied. Those exceeding 12 million to 60 million, a tax of 10% be applied, and those above 60 million are taxed 15% on gross. And this applies for both individuals and companies. 4.5, Clause 4B, amending Section 21A, income tax exemption for manufacturers and hospital developers. The committee observed that the bill seeks to exempt manufacturers and hospital developers from income tax for a period of 10 years from the date of commencement of business. The committee observed that there is need to assess all exemptions and other tax incentives before more exemptions are granted. Recommendations. Committee therefore recommends that Clause 4B, amending Section 21(1) of the income tax, be amended and government undertakes a comprehensive study on tax exemptions. Clause 4.6, Clause 4A, an amendment of Section 21 of the Principal Act, extension of the tax exemption to Jagali hydropower project from 2022 to 2027. Observations of the committee. No return on equity, no non-remittance of dividends, and no board member by government of Uganda. I think that is self-explanatory. I don't have to go into depth of that. Members, you can read that. Okay, I comply, I will read. While government of Uganda is a majority shareholder of ordinary shares in Bujagali Electricity Limited, it has never received any individual, it has never received any dividend, and it has no board member on the board. Out of the 460,000 shares, the government owns 360 shares. The value for each of the shares classified as C is worth Uganda shillings 100,000, yet the value for each of the shares for the other shareholder classified as Class A has a value of Uganda shillings 100. Based on the power purchase agreement, government is entitled to retained earnings, also known as return on investment or equity for the shareholders of 19%. This is provided under Section 4.4 of Annex D of the Power Purchase Agreement. The table 1 gives the details and detailed summary of all this in terms implied in terms of the finances, how they go to the different shareholders. And I beg you members to go through that. You can critically study it. The source of that information is Bujagali Energy Limited Annual Report and Financial Statements for years 2018-2021. B, non-remittance of retained earnings. Section 4.9 of Annex D of the Power Purchase Agreement provides for return on government of Uganda equity. However, the government does not receive any equity because the Power Purchase Agreement allocated no voting powers to Class C shareholders. Class A shareholders, who are the minority, receive their earnings, that in terms of dividends and retained. Secondly, preference share of value $69,910 receive dividends every year, more than $70,000 per year. $70,000 million. $70 million. Thank you, honorable members. I'm glad you are alert. For the last 4 years, that is between 2018-2021, retained earnings worth a total of $950.91, equivalent of 3.61 trillion, has not been deposited on the consolidated fund. Drivers of electricity tariff based on Power Purchase Agreement. The high electricity tariffs are attributed to the cost arising from payment for capacity charges, debt principal, that is 22%, debt interest 20%, operation and maintenance costs 6%, and return on equity 52% constitute the cost of capacity charges. However, it should be noted that return on equity is misclassified as a cost, yet it is an earning or dividends. The rest of the items, that is debt principal, debt interest, are paid by Government of Uganda through the debt refinancing undertaken in 2018. Bujagali Electricity Limited only meets operation and maintenance costs. Additionally, when computing return on equity for Bujagali Electricity Limited, they incorporate cost of corporate income tax, which is rather abnormal. However, it is critical to note that Section 4.5 of Annex D of the Power Purchase Agreement, the company is obliged to use its reasonable efforts to keep its corporate income tax liabilities to a minimum. Therefore, the proposal to exempt the company of corporate income tax is unfounded. Besides, corporate tax is charged on profit, not on cost. The company is overpricing the capacity charges so as to generate excess income after knocking off their return on investment to the disadvantage of the Government of Uganda. This leads to getting dividends for bail. D, inadequate evacuation network. It ought to be noted that the main driver for high power tariffs is not the cost of power generation, but rather deemed energy, that is cost for unconsumed power. This is attributed to inadequate evacuation networks that constrain demand for the power generated, hence the need to incur capacity charges. Therefore, the best suited intervention would have to be to reduce the cost of developing evacuation networks and attract investments. On average, 783,008 billion Uganda shillings is required annually for the development of evacuation and distribution network. E, foregone revenue. Concern is raised on the fact that for the period 2018-2019 to 2020-2021, a total of Uganda shillings 299.18 billion had been foregone due to income tax exemptions to Bujagali hydropower. The foregone revenue for the said period is yet to be established at the close of the financial year. Nevertheless, the new proposed exemption period will amount to foregone revenue of a total of Uganda shillings of US dollars 113.8 million, equivalent of 432.44 billion Uganda shillings in the years 2023 to 2027, in return for a tariff reduction of only 4.7%. It has been established that the government forecasts to grant income tax exemption to the company until 2030. This is according to the restructuring plan of the loan. Unfortunately, despite repeated requests, government was unable to furnish the committee with the benefits in monetary terms that have accrued from the exemption, as well as enumeration of other exemptions that the company is benefiting from. Honorable members, I implore you to go through the table 1 about what I've just read, the revenue foregone. The cost of restructuring the loan costed Uganda additional $45 million. The committee recommends that when you review the accounts of BEL, it clearly shows that BEL, which is taking interest and dividend, is basically increasing tariff of power for no equity of their own equity. The committee recommends that early retirement of the loans be done. Government should ensure all types of agreements which commit government and people of Uganda should be scrutinized by Parliament. Where is it? I don't have it. That is page what? Oh, page 12. Madam Speaker, I'm sorry, my report has no page 12, but let me read this. F, which is lack of value for money. It should be noted that the anticipated tariff reduction from the new proposed exemption will be lesser than the expiring exemption, which has been asserted to have led to a tariff reduction from US cents 13.83 per kilowatt hour on 1st July 2017 to a projection of US cents 10.65 per kilowatt hour on 30th June 2022. This translates to a reduction of 23.2%. Hence, there is a value for money concern as to why the anticipated tariff reduction of 4.7% from the proposed exemption is far less than 23.2% for the said period. Ideally, based on precedent, the new exemption would reduce the tariff to US cents 8.15 per kilowatt hour, not US cents 10.112 per kilowatt hour. The committee believes that BEL has already allocated enough money for themselves to lower the tariffs at the consumer level without a tax waiver. The return on equity for BEL is 19% per annum and is deducted as an expense in the profit and loss account, which violates the principle of economy. Therefore, it is agreed, then there is no need for the exemption. Recommendation. The committee was not therefore satisfied with the explanations justifying another 5-year corporate income tax waiver for Bujagali Energy Limited. The committee is therefore recommending that request be declined because the cost has been exaggerated by... Why they clap? I have not finished the report. Your people are hearing you clapping for more higher tariffs. The committee recommends that the Auditor General of Uganda carries out a forensic audit on BEL to establish the excess money collected as a result of overpricing for tariffs, and the same be remitted to the consolidated fund, among others. You leave it here. I think we are at Pavia. I proceed to 4.7, Clause 7, amendment of Section 89GB of the Principal Act, treatment of an intangible asset as a depreciable cost with a 100% rate. The committee noted that Clause 7 provides that where the cost of acquiring an intangible asset to a licensee contractor is treated as petroleum exploration expenditure, then such cost qualifies for full deduction in the year of income as other petroleum exploration expenditure. The committee took cognizance of the fact that the purpose of this amendment is to clarify that the same rate of writing off the cost of an intangible asset referred to in section 89GB2 is the depreciation rate of 100%, which is referred to in section 89GB1B. That notwithstanding, the committee noted that section 89GB of the Income Tax Act already provides for the manner of the treatment of the cost of acquiring a depreciable asset in petroleum exploration. Recommendation. The committee recommends that clause 7, amending section 89GB, be deleted. Amendment of section 22 of the Income Tax Act to exclude seasonal farmers in agriculture. The committee observed that section 22(2)(m) of the Income Tax Act, as amended in 2015, permits for purposes of ascertaining the chargeable income of a person for a year of income, a deduction for any expenditure above 5 million shillings in one transaction on goods and services from a supplier who does not have a taxpayer identification number. The purpose of section 22(2)(m) of the income tax committee noted is to incentivize unregistered suppliers of goods and services such as farmers to acquire TIN numbers in order to remain competitive. However, in regard to this, in general, regards to agriculture in general and cotton in particular, the approach may not be practical. The committee noted that while the solution appears simple, the farmers should register or be taxed in order to remain competitive. The situation on the ground is quite different. To shed light on the difficulty of the application of section that, the committee noted that cotton is a seasonal crop and mainly owned by small-scale farmers holding 1/2 to 2 acres of land with an average yield of 300 to 500 kilograms per acre. The Guineas buy cotton in small lots from various farmers. Generally, small-scale farmers are not very sophisticated business owners and therefore may not understand the rationale for TIN registration. The procedures involved in the registration with the Uganda Revenue Authority. The committee further noted that many of the farmers may not have the requisite documentation as national identity card, business registration number to successfully register themselves. Additionally, many farmers may not even meet the threshold of a gross turnover of 10 million in 1 year. That is the presumptive tax threshold. The committee noted that while the Guineas have invested economic and social efforts to ensure that farmers are registered by URA and get a TIN, it is an uphill task that cannot be achieved in the short term, given that tax education is not the core mandate of the Guineas. Currently, they told us they're the ones trying to do that, to help the farmers. However, since the inclusion of section 22(2)(m) in the Income Tax Act in 2015, little sensitization to these farmers has taken place. Introduction of section 22(2)(m) in the Income Tax Act in 2015 has hurt farmers in 2 ways. First, processors are unable to buy the raw material from cotton farmers who are not registered, who are not having their TINs. And secondly, farmers who are not registered are unable to sell their produce to the processors. The committee concluded that as with the treatment of agricultural supplies in other laws such as 1195 that exempts agricultural supplies from withholding tax, section 22(2)(m) needs to recognize the reality of its impact on small-scale farmers, especially the cotton growers, and exclude them from taxable deductions pending adequate sensitization and inclusion in the for them to acquire tins. Recommendation. The committee therefore recommends that Section 2022(2)(m) is amended to exclude its application to the agricultural sector. 4.9, amendment to Section 25(3), allowable interest on loans. Whereas it was not part of the bill introduced, the committee received presentation on the current application of Section 25(3) of the Principal Income Tax Act. The provision introduced in 2019 with the objective of stopping erosion of profit through debt financing by multinational companies or overseas borrowings states as follows. 25(3), the amount of deductible interest in respect of all debts owed by a taxpayer who is a member of a group other than a financial institution or person carrying on insurance business shall not exceed 30% of the tax earnings before interest, depreciation, and amortization. Interest costs are genuine costs allowed normally before tax. However, this restriction on allowable interest to 30% was intended to apply to a group of companies which in Section 25(5)(b) is defined as group means person other than individuals with common underlying ownership. It was enacted based on Action 3 of the Base Erosion and Profit Shifting of the OECD against profit shifting and base erosion, especially by multinational companies. Multinational companies, through aggressive tax planning, would bring in money from one of their companies outside the country and then repatriate it back as tax payment. It was intended to limit allowable interest deductions where loans are to a lender not resident in Uganda. The witness, therefore, argued that the law was not intended for standalone companies where lenders are in Uganda. This is because where a company has borrowed locally, there is a clear audit trail of servicing the loan, and the banks are also taxed on profits generated as a result of servicing that loan. The committee, however, had that in its application of the law, local companies are not being allowed as expenses interest on their locally borrowed funds. The committee was told that this is harming genuine business borrowing in the country. They added, Uganda is increasing in addition, that is like local companies are being penalized for local borrowing, which is making the cost of capital in Uganda high. The committee also noted that disallowed interest payments as business expenses may affect future investments in the country, future local investments in the country. The committee therefore recommends that Section 25(3) of the Principal Act be reviewed to allow the local companies with domestic borrowing claim interest payments on loans as a cost. Madam Speaker, I beg to report.
Thank you so much. Did you lay the report on table? Can I have that report laid on table? Can you lay the report on table?
Madam Speaker, I laid the minutes yesterday, and now beg to lay a copy of the income tax amendment bill.
Yes.
I beg to lay.
Then there is the minority report to that effect. Chair, the minority report is also yours. Chair, the minority report is also your report, so you can invite.
Madam Speaker and honorable members, as we were processing this report, there were dissenting views, and therefore Honorable Chivumbi served us with a notice of coming up with a minority report. I beg that you allow him report.
Okay, and he's a member of the committee.
Right Honorable Chair, for beginners, from the outset, let me say, on this one, we agree with the majority report, 99.9%. And it's just one simple issue, not very simple, has a lot of impact on our local people, where we want to have a varying view for which we recommend Parliament to follow our view. Areas of dissent are only on rental tax issues. Several issues arise with the proposed rental tax measures, particularly discrimination, impact on citizens, recovery and risk of a company called Repo NAMI. The risk of Repo NAMI, Honorable Speaker and members, in the year 2020, Government of Uganda entered an agreement with the Repo NAMI company with the objective of increasing rental tax collections. The company was charged with identifying individuals and corporations who are underpaying or not paying rental tax by deploying a tax compliance system based on Repo NAMI's blockchain visualization platform. The system was adopted as a reform in rental tax collections. The proposed amendment in Clause 3, 5, and 12 of the bill are an indication of a failed reform that was expected to develop a rental tax geographical information system solutions in Uganda. It has, however, been noted that the company is underperforming on its obligation on the agreement. For instance, the company was expected to contribute to the realization of 170 billion by the year 2021. Unfortunately, the solution has never been implemented. The committee was informed by the Uganda National Revenue Authority that the solution is expected to be implemented in June this year, 2022. Nevertheless, 117.2 billion was actualized in the last financial year 2021 without the effort of Repo NAMI company. A shortfall of 52.76 billion off the target. Instead of holding the company accountable for its failure to execute the contract, government has resorted to fixing the failed solution and default with the fiscal intervention. And I can put on the table here, I have a performance. Rent tax in 17-18 was 88 billion. In 18-19 it was 115. In 1920 it was 103. This last year it was 2021, it was 117. Following the review of the agreement between Uganda and Repo NAMI, several concerns were noted. Government did not source the company through a competitive process. The agreement entered was poorly negotiated and contains provisions that are non-beneficial to the country. The following are the critical aspects of the agreement. 1. The project only operates in the Greater Kampala metropolitan area that comprises all the divisions of Kampala City, as well as the neighboring municipalities of Mukono, Entebbe, Nansana, Wakiso. That is, so it is restricted. Secondly, even without any effort, government is entitled, even without any effort, the company is entitled to a share of 15% of the net rental income collected by URA. So even if we do nothing, as long as we base the year of this company, as we collect more tax, takes away 15%. It is similar to the ones we have elsewhere, Rubowa, and others. After every quarter of a financial year, revenue sharing payments are made after 30 days. So after every quarter, after 30 days, the company goes to URA and collects its money. Failure to remit revenue sharing payment attracts an interest of 12% per annum. That is the agreement. Project managers for the government and company have the authority to act on behalf of their respective parties in all matters regarding the project. So a project manager for URA can commit government of Uganda. Government is expected to assign an executive project sponsor to oversee the project at a higher level and assist in removing roadblocks. Government to provide the company with office space, supplies, furniture, internet, and other facilities. Facilities, software, hardware, other resources required for economic performance of services will be borne by government. Tax exemptions to import, export, re-import, re-export, and movement facilities related to the development, deployment, and implementation of the tax compliance system. All those are things this company godly enjoys. Government waived the claim to sovereign immunity and provision to terminate agreement if rental tax compliance system is not set up within 1 year from commencement date at no cost. Based on the above provisions, particularly paragraph 572 of the agreement, it can be noted that any increment arising from the proposed amendment will benefit Reponami. A share of 15% of the net increment of rental tax. This is unfair for the traditional rent income in 2002 will be largely realized from a fiscal measure, not a prowess of the intervention of Reponami. The case we are making here is that Reponami said it's going to expand the base and collect more taxes. It's not doing that. Instead, we are here now in Parliament manipulating a tax policy to increase revenue, and it benefits for doing no work. Discrimination. The losers in the proposed amendment are individuals and partners who will no longer be entitled to expenditure or loss of deduction. They are to be subjected to a flat rate of 15% tax of the gross rental income. Right, honorable colleagues, I've put here a table for easiness of discernment and I've imagined the rental income of 10 million. The current law, if you have 10 million income, you are paying annually for individual. You are paying 750,000. And if you do go ahead and implement the tax measure brought, you are going to now pay 1.2 million. A net stress on the individual of 450,000 shillings. For companies, I'm making no case. Because for companies, I'm like saying, okay, it can be as it is. But even for companies, there will be a net loss of from 750 to double the effect of the tax. It is also important to note that trusts, companies, and retirement funds would benefit from the 50% expenditure or loss deductions in a year of income, unlike individuals or partners. This is discriminatory. Individuals or partnerships also incur expenses or losses, especially repairs, when generating rental income. Now, the impact on the recovery of citizens. Additionally, Citizens are recovering from the adverse effect of COVID-19 pandemic, particularly the lockdown that distorted their livelihood. Many individuals rely on rent income to pay school fees and meet medical expenses. Hence, any measure that increases their rental tax depreciates their disposable income amidst escalating inflation and commodity prices. Furthermore, any increment in payable rental income increases vulnerability of business hit by COVID-19. Staff who were laid off or suffered a reduction of wages, it would therefore be prudent not to increase rental income when citizens are struggling to revive their lives. Right Honorable Speaker, you are aware that among other industries in this country, the housing industry has the largest local content on all industries. It affects a brickmaker, it affects a welder, it affects a plumber, it affects a painter, people in cement. Therefore, when people's disposable income are stressed in the housing industry, the entire economy will suffer. So as we tinker with the policy here, we must know humble citizens are recovering from 600,000 parents failed to have registration fees for primary going children across the country. You are going to punish them now with a new tax, whose benefit will go to a private company that ended a shoulder business with Uganda called Riponami. And it has no input. Therefore, our recommendation is very simple, Right Honorable Speaker, is that for this 1 year, when Riponami says it's going to apply its magic, okay, we don't manipulate the tax. So that when Riponami realizes the benefits for their ingenuity, they benefit from it. But for them to come here, and for us we increase a tax on our citizens, and they walk away with the billions of shillings every 30 days, it will be extremely unfair of us. I beg to move.
Thank you so much, Honorable Honorable, yes, Love. And then on this side, I want to thank the chair. After hearing what you presented, your suggestion is that we delete 4 clauses out of the 12. You are also saying that we amend 2 clauses out of the 12. Yes. 6 clauses. The implication that it has on the government is that the revenue projection from these incomes of 2022-2023 is going to be affected. That one we must put in. But we must also be able to get money to construct hospitals, to work on roads. There is no other place that government will get money, not even from borrowing. So we must legislate with that in mind. And the observation that I have on page 6 of the report from the government side, as I said yesterday, your recommendations must speak to the observations must speak to the recommendations. And all of you are senior members in this parliament. You've been here longer than all of us. So I'm reserving my comment, but as I promised you, we need an action on some of these things. Can we look at the income tax amendment bill? I want to request Honorable Chivumbi, Honorable Lop, to give me a team from his side, including Honorable Nandala, and then the minister with Bahati, and the chair. Who? Omara and Herbert. I want you to do some consensus, and we agree on how we proceed. As we agree on how we proceed, Nathan, can you stand up and lead the team out?
Madam Speaker, I'm ready, and my proposal, I would suggest that on that team we add Katash.
No problem.
Since I'm now the one leading the team, because he has some ideas. I've just picked him. I don't know him very well, but I would have him to
When elders are talking, you don't get up. So we are giving you people 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Chair, can you go ahead and read the next bill?
Item 5, the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, ordinarily I should have been seeking for a clarification, but our rules don't allow us to seek clarification from you. As the team goes out to thrash out a few matters, does that, Madam Speaker, mean that we are standing over this bill, or there will be no debate? What they bring, because me, I have very strong sentiments.
When they return, Honorable Semuju, when they return, we'll continue with the debate. So let's first hear from the next one also, so that we don't sit here like yesterday. Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the bill entitled the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022 be read for the second time.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Is it seconded? Seconded by Jane, Azar, Wilson, Feta, James, William, Amos, Enos, Dr. Yume, Mawanda, Foyo Chan, Honorable Layo, workers. Thank you so much. Can you speak a bit to your report?
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, rather, the bill, the Act 2014, provide for the definition of fruit juice and unnatured spirits and vegetable juice, to provide for the amendment of Schedule 2 of the Act, and provide for other related matters. We presented this bill to the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and they are ready to report back to the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And first of all, my apology for the hard start earlier this morning. We've got the report on the excise duty, and it's been uploaded. Now, the objective of the bill, as highlighted by the Minister, is first of all to define fruit juice, and then clarify, do something on excise duty on opaque beer, and then fermented beverages, and then also amend tax on plastics. Now, I got to observations of the committee. First of all, we observe that there is need for stability of the excise duty. At the moment, taxes account for 45 to 55% of the cost of production. And for any investment, businesses go extra mile to do the planning based on the obtaining tax. And sometimes the planning could be 2 to 3 or even 5 years before they come up with a line of production. So to enable proper planning and compliance, the excise duty or the taxes need to be stable.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, Rule 82 is on the dress code in this Parliament. And it goes in greater detail to explain how we should dress. Is the honorable member who has just walked in dressed like a Pepe Kale? Is he in order, Honorable Musila, sorry. Is he in order to walk into the chambers of Parliament as if he's going on stage to perform, Madam Speaker, in total violation of our Rule 82. It gives details of what you can put on, and Madam Speaker, you gave every MP a copy of the rule, and I don't think it was for a joke. You're supposed to put on a suit, shirt, a tie, a pair of long trousers with a jacket, a kanzu and a jacket, a safari suit. But he chooses to come here as if he's going on stage dressed like a Pepe Kale, that famous Congolese musician. Is he in order to enter the chambers of Parliament dressed like he's going on stage?
Honorable members, Honorable Masila has always dressed smartly like that. And is dressed very well. And when you look at how he's dressed, that is a traditional attire from his ministry of Salvation Army? Rastaman. Yes, Rastaman, you can sit. Honorable Semuju, Rastaman is very smart. Can we go ahead?
Thank you.
Rastaman.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Madam Speaker. Sorry, I'm on page 2 of the report, and I'm talking through the points there instead of just reading everything verbatim. So I was just saying that we have a problem with our...
Are you reading the report or you're talking to the report?
I thought if it's preferred that I read, I can read, but I thought...
No,
okay.
Honorable Chair.
Okay.
The rules of this House are very clear. If you have a report, read a report.
Okay. Stability of the excise tax regime. The committee observed that there is need to enable proper planning and implementation of investment plans by enterprises through a predictable and stable tax regime. The committee noted that any new tax measure should therefore be thoroughly scrutinized to assess its impact on macroeconomic stability and the competitiveness of the sector in line with NDP 3 and the policy of export promotion and import substitution. The committee noted that on average, tax accounts for between 45 and 55% of the price of final product. The committee further noted that in particular, the excise duty regime is reviewed on an annual basis, and yet investment is planned for a period of 3 to 5 years. The committee therefore recommends that government develops an excise duty regime spanning for 2 to 3 years to facilitate proper planning. B, digital tax stamps. For financial year 2018-2019, budget approved for the financial year 2018-2019, the budget approved the use of digital tax stamps with the objective of addressing tax leakages in excise payments. Although the objective is much appreciated, the implementation of the regime increases the cost of doing businesses through installation cost incurred by companies. The committee further noted that digital tax stamp increases the cost of exports as companies are forced to change branding designs just to incorporate the DTS, especially for export products. That notwithstanding, the committee was cognizant of the central role of DTS plays in domestic revenue mobilization strategy. Some of the benefits include: 1. Improvement in the capacity of Uganda Revenue Authority to track and trace capabilities of taxpayers as a means of improving compliance. 2. The increased production of real-time data. 3. The empowerment of consumers. 4. The improved protection of legitimate businesses against unfair competition. 5. The protection of consumers against harmful products. 6. Improved prevention of illicit production and counterfeiting. 7. Improved real-time tax accounting and reconciliation for tax stamps, and real-time enforcement and prosecution. The committee therefore recommends: 1. That digital tax stamp payment be restructured to consider the increased excise duty collections to ensure the government and the country benefits commensurately from the solution. 2. That DTS be applied only to taxpayers who have proven to be continuously under-declaring the right excise duty payable. C. Development of different tier thresholds on excise duty regime. The committee observed the need to promote local content through the development of a separate tier threshold for new innovative products which utilize local raw materials, mainly in the agriculture industry. This should consider products at introduction stage to enable them benefit from the sunk cost, since targeting them for tax discourages innovation and reduces the expected revenue development through the value chain, especially the supply chains. The committee therefore recommends that a separate excise duty threshold be developed for innovative products that promote the utilization of local raw materials, mainly in the agriculture industry. Then B, specific observations and recommendations. Clause 2, amendment of Section 2 of the Excise Duty Act 2014, and this is on definition of fruit juice. The committee observed that fruit juice has been redefined in the bill to mean an fermented liquid extracted from the edible part of fresh fruit, whether the extracted liquid is diluted or not. The committee was informed that the proposed redefinition of fruit juice goes against the conventional definition of juice as provided for in the UNBS standards that are aligned with international definitions and classifications of juice. The committee was further informed that redefining juice in the manner proposed in the amendments will bring raw materials, and that's juice pulp and puree, under the excise duty levies. The committee noted that the proposed wording will also lead to double taxation because fruit puree and pulp will attract excise duty, as will the final products they are used to manufacture, the juice itself. Furthermore, instating excise duty on pulp would mean that the cost will be extended to farmers in the form of reduction in prices. The rationale is to exclude puree for industrial use, but maintain the tax on ready-to-drink juice, whether diluted or not, and to avoid double duty on both the puree and the final fruit juice. The committee therefore recommends that Clause 2 be amended to define fruit juice as unfermented liquid extracted from the edible part of fresh fruit, whether the extracted liquid is diluted or not, but does not include fruit puree for industrial use that is not ready for final consumption. This redefinition will ensure that there is no double taxation of both the fruit pulp raw material and the fruit juice itself. B, Clause 3, amendment of Schedule 2 of the Principal Act excise duty on opaque beer. The committee observed that Clause 3A seeks to amend Schedule 2 to the Principal Act to reduce excise duty on opaque beer from 12% or 230 per litre, whichever is higher, to 12% or 150 per litre, whichever is higher. The committee learned that one of the companies in the alcohol sector innovated and set up a Kibuku factory, which unfortunately closed in 2018 over an progressive excise duty on opaque beer. The unprogressive tax on opaque beer rendered Kibuku uncompetitive with other local brews such as Tonto, Ajono, Mulamba, Marwa, Kwete, among others. Due to this, annual VAT worth 5 billion has been lost, and an average of 3.6 million kilograms of local maize and over 1,000 farmers supplying maize have lost the market. 6,000 direct and indirect jobs linked to the factories have also been lost. The committee therefore observed